My name is Margaret Hayes, and I'm 72 years old. I've lived a full life, raised two beautiful children, and buried a husband I loved for 43 years. But what happened last Christmas? Well, it taught me that even at my age, life can still surprise you. I should start at the beginning. My daughter Rebecca married a wonderful man named Thomas 5 years ago. They seemed happy, building their life together in Los Angeles while I stayed in my quiet home in Portland. Rebecca would call me every Sunday evening, her voice bright with stories about her work at the museum and Thomas's architecture firm. But about a year ago, something shifted. Her calls became shorter. Her laughter sounded hollow. When I asked if everything was all right, she'd brush it off with a quick, "Just tired, Mom. A mother knows." Last December, Rebecca called with an invitation. "Mom, we'd love to have you for Christmas this year. Thomas wants to host a big lunch at our place." My heart swelled. "I'd love that, sweetheart. There's just one thing," she said, her voice careful. "Thomas's mother, Diane, will be coming too. She's particular about seating arrangements and holiday traditions. You understand." I did understand, though something in her tone made me uneasy. I flew into Los Angeles on Christmas Eve. The weather was beautiful, nothing like the rain I'd left in Portland. Rebecca picked me up at the airport, and I noticed how thin she'd become. Her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "You look tired, honey," I said gently, taking her hand. "I'm fine, Mom. Just busy season at work." We drove to her home in silence, my worry growing with each passing mile. Christmas morning arrived with bright California sunshine. I woke early and made coffee, trying to be helpful. Rebecca appeared in the kitchen, already dressed in a beautiful burgundy dress, her makeup perfect but unable to hide the sadness in her eyes. "You look lovely," I told her. "Thanks, Mom. Listen, about the seating today." She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Diane has very specific ideas about family hierarchy. She'll sit at Thomas's right side, and well, where will I sit?" I asked quietly. "We have a beautiful spot set up for you near the window. You'll love the view of the garden." My chest tightened, but I nodded. This wasn't about me. Something else was happening here. Something my daughter wasn't telling me. Guests started arriving around noon. Thomas's mother, Diane, swept in wearing an elegant cream suit, her silver hair perfectly styled. She was attractive for her age, probably in her early 70s like me, but there was a coldness in her eyes that chilled me. "Margaret," she said, extending 2 fingers for me to shake. "How nice that Rebecca invited you." The implication was clear. This wasn't my place. I was a guest, tolerated but not welcomed. The dining room was stunning. Rebecca had clearly worked hard, with white roses and crystal everywhere. And there, at the head of the table, sat Thomas. To his right, the place of honor was set for Diane. Near the window, separated from the main table by a small service station, was a single place setting. For me, Rebecca saw my face. "Mom, it's fine, sweetheart," I said, though my heart was breaking. Not for myself, but for what this revealed about my daughter's life. Lunch began. I sat alone, watching as Thomas served his mother. First, listening as Diane held court, making subtle digs about Rebecca's housekeeping, her career, her cooking. And Thomas said nothing. He just smiled and nodded, refilling his mother's wineglass while my daughter grew smaller and quieter. Then it happened. Diane launched into a story about Thomas's ex-girlfriend, some woman named Carolyn. "She was always so elegant," Diane said loudly. "Remember, Thomas? She knew how to host a proper dinner party. Not like," she caught herself, glancing at Rebecca. "Well, times change, I suppose." I watched my daughter's hands tremble as she reached for her water glass, and suddenly, I'd had enough. "Rebecca," I said clearly, standing up, "I need to speak with you in the kitchen. Now, please." The room fell silent. Diane's eyebrows rose. "Surely it can wait until after." "No," I said firmly. "It cannot." In the kitchen, I took my daughter's hands. They were ice cold. "Mom, please don't make a scene." "It's fine." "She's just..." "When did this start?" I asked. "When did you become invisible in your own home?" Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "It's complicated. Is there someone else?" I asked gently, Her face crumbled. Her name is Nicole. She works at his firm. I found texts 3 months ago. He says it's nothing, but, she wiped her eyes. His mother knows. She told me that if I were a better wife, he wouldn't need to look elsewhere. She said this year, they only wanted to invite people who truly matter. My blood ran cold. And Thomas? What did he say? He said his mother is old-fashioned, that I should be patient, that Nicole means nothing. She looked at me with hollow eyes. I love him, Mom. I thought if I just tried harder. I pulled my daughter into my arms and held her while she cried. And in that moment, standing in that beautiful kitchen in that beautiful house where my child had been made to feel worthless, I made a decision. I walked back into that dining room with my purse in hand. Thank you for the lovely meal, I announced. Rebecca, get your coat. Thomas stood up. Margaret, what my daughter and I are leaving, said calmly. Rebecca, I've booked us a suite at the Beverly Wilshire. We're going to have our own Christmas. She can't just leave, Diane sputtered. There's dessert to serve, guests to attend to. I looked at Thomas. This man I'd welcomed into our family. You can serve your own dessert. And Thomas, I'm canceling the check I sent for your roof repair. Consider it a Christmas gift to myself. His face paled. I'd sent $15,000 just 2 weeks ago. Also calling my lawyer friend Patricia tomorrow. She specializes in divorce law. I turned to Rebecca. But only if that's what you want, sweetheart. This is your choice. Always your choice. Rebecca looked at Thomas, then at Diane, then at me. Something shifted in her eyes, a spark I hadn't seen in months. I'll get my coat, she said quietly. Rebecca, don't be dramatic, Thomas started, but my daughter walked right past him, her head held high. In the car, Rebecca started crying again. But this time, they were different tears. Cleaner somehow. I should have left months ago, she whispered. I just kept hoping. Hope is good, I said, reaching for her hand. But we shouldn't hope for people to become decent. We should expect it from the start. We spent Christmas evening in that hotel suite, ordering room service and watching old movies. Rebecca told me everything, the affairs, the emotional abuse, Diane's constant undermining, Thomas's refusal to defend her. I think I stayed because leaving felt like failure, she admitted. Like I couldn't make it work. Sweetheart, staying with someone who mistreats you isn't success, I said. Walking away takes more courage than staying ever could. 2 days later, Thomas called. He wanted to talk, to explain. Rebecca listened politely, then said something that made me incredibly proud. You didn't defend me, Thomas. Not once. Not from your mother, not from Nicole, not from your own cruelty. I deserved better. I deserve better. She paused. I'll have my lawyer contact yours. She hung up, and we both sat there in the quiet. What happens now? She asked. Now you come home to Portland for a while. You heal. You remember who you are. I smiled. And eventually, you find someone who wouldn't dream of seating you anywhere but beside them. 6 months later, Rebecca filed for divorce. Thomas didn't contest it. Diane sent a nasty letter, which we threw away. Without reading, Rebecca stayed with me for a year. We gardened together, cooked together, talked about everything and nothing. I watched her slowly come back to herself, the bright, confident woman she'd been before she tried to shrink herself to fit into someone else's life. Last week, she called me from Los Angeles. She'd moved back for a new position at a different museum. Mom, I met someone, she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. His name is David. He's kind, really kind. And last weekend, we went to his parents' house for dinner. And you know what? What, sweetheart? His mother asked me where I'd like to sit. She actually asked me. Rebecca's voice cracked a little. It seems like such a small thing, but it's not small, I said firmly. Respect is never small. I love you, Mom. Thank you for giving me the courage to walk out that door. You always had that courage, sweetheart. I just reminded you it was there. After we hung up, I sat on my porch with my evening tea and thought about that Christmas. About the moment I chose my daughter over politeness, love over obligation. Sometimes revenge isn't about grand gestures. Sometimes it's simply refusing to accept mistreatment. It's walking away with your dignity intact. It's teaching those who undervalued you that they were the ones who lost something precious. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is showing someone they deserve better, even when they've forgotten it themselves. The garden roses are blooming now. Rebecca's coming home next month for a visit, and she's bringing David to meet me. Life is funny. That way, you think you know how the story will go, and then everything changes. All because of one Christmas lunch, one terrible seating arrangement, and a mother's love that refused to be seated in the corner.